Thank you. So it's great honor for me to dwell my speech after Professor Chernigovskaya and Dr. Kolesnikova, and it's my real pleasure that they have just bridged the gap between the real issues, the real state of events, and the problems that teachers face during this just coming back to normal reality. Okay, so the topic of my speech today is virtual reality in English language teaching. And in particular, I'm going to focus on the case of teachers training. So I will start briefly with the definitions of just artificial intelligence and the launch of the Teachers Excellence Center, focus on the modeling of the first class for teachers with the help of a virtual reality helmet or glasses. And I have prepared several tasks for you guys, so I want you to get involved in active learning as it is, and response in chats. Please don't hesitate. Even if it is a crazy idea, I want you to put it and we will discuss it. So, and I will conclude with the benefits, of course, and stepping stones. As Ekaterina Alexeyevna has already mentioned, so there are several ways of introducing new technologies into the teaching practice. There's various type of classifications, and one of them that I have cited just has four of them, right? If you use fragmental web tools, and that is 100% sure that we all do. Quizlet, Kahoot, quizzes, Google sites, Google Drives, genuinely whatnot, right? But that is not in the syllabi. So, and the second type is blended learning, when we have 50 face-to-face classes and 50 online classes. That's the combination of the conventional English class and a new digital model. Hybrid learning, that is the just about 80% online and 20% offline. So it's a precious stone, as the previous speakers have said, when you communicate in person. Those extra linguistic components and the personal brand of the teacher influence all the students, no doubt. But in the period of pandemic and just those lockdowns, there was the only way. And for many underprivileged kids who are just out of reach for traditional schools, that's a brilliant idea. And e-learning, so is 100% of dwelling classes online. So digital transformation, actually that's the buzzword nowadays, but I want you to bear in mind the fact that artificial intelligence was touched upon in the end of the 20th century. So it took us about several decades to catch up. And as Professor Chernigovskaya has mentioned, artificial intelligence, it's just the digital tool, right? So it assists teachers, but it does not replace us, right? So that is the just perfect tool to accomplish certain tasks. So as for the introduction and blending digital tools into educational sphere, here is the just pre-story. If we just try to look back on the steps of digitalization. If you do remember, there was the program for computerization of all schools, including remote areas, and it was just dated back to 2002. And now there is a new program of computerization of all schools that is to be finished up at the end of this year, forthcoming year. So we see the process is a very, very long-lasting. It's not just the overnight surprise. It takes ages for teachers to get accustomed, because just about 20 years ago, the majority of teachers were reluctant. They didn't just get delighted with the idea, and they used only a piece of chalk and blackboard. So now we have transformed not only the manner of education, we have transformed the mindset of people. And as we just have discussed, it's just the technological progress that is unstoppable. So lots of things are used daily without sometimes our not being aware of it. So deep learning, corpora that has been mentioned, linguistics, corpus linguistics, neural networks, automatic face recognition, big data, Internet of Things, smart houses, smart homes, smart learning management systems, right? And it turns out that several universities even use digital footprints. So we are all under the cosh. Big Brother is watching us, right? And the universities trace the potential applicants for the forthcoming year. So those gifted students, those talented ones, they would try to get ignited and invite to the university. So what I'm going to tell you is the project that is called the Teacher of the Future. As the majority of Russians are sure to know, there is the national project that is under the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Higher Education, and the project is superb from the point of view of focusing on the needs of underprivileged kids, on the needs of those schools with low academic performances, on the just talents of the students, and in response to those needs, to meet those needs, to bridge the gap, lots of programs were launched, quantoriums, iCubes, and the Teacher of the Future projects appeared. So it started in 2019, and the idea is to provide the teachers with the assistance, methodological, and the computer-mediated ways of studying, right? So the idea was to increase the level of awareness of existing learning methods. If we take, for example, foreign languages, task-based learning, English as medium of instruction, CLIL, and so on and so forth, right? Okay, and the idea, so the logic behind was to provide the technical assistance to those in need. But our opinion poll with the young teachers, those who have not reached the age of 35 at schools, showed very interesting results, unexpected, I would say. As you can see, judging from the pie chart, the majority of the respondents rank the information communication literacy skills pretty high. So if we just see 5 up to 10 is the maximum, right? And the need for the assistance, that is the left-hand pie chart. But surprisingly, though the representatives of the new generations are digital natives, nevertheless, they would require special classes, training courses to get to know all those brand new technologies and teaching methods. So, and what do we offer? We have provided special trainings and singled out individual tracks of education. And the brand new project that I'm going to just to tell you about, highlight, is the virtual reality in English language teaching. So actually that is the prototype. And I would appreciate if the assistant would send you the link in chat with the YouTube link where you can have a look at the program I'm talking about. So it all started in school 182 of Nizhny Novgorod, where small kids had their class of English, and the process was taken to the 3D camera. So the idea was to assist teachers who, as Professor Chernigovskaya has mentioned, are afraid of taking their first steps. Kids are too small, they are fragile, and every wrong action can have painful consequences. For this reason, the idea is to provide the um, newcomer to school with assistance. We imitate the reality of the real-time class with live kids, with a live teacher, and we analyze what went wrong. So if you have a look at the YouTube link right now, so within the time, appears the bubble with the problem. So your task is to say what is wrong. If you have a look at the left, you will see the instructions, those classroom management words like just prepare your textbooks, open your textbooks on page number, blah, blah, blah. And if you have a look on the blackboard, you will see the just to say bubble with the stages of the class in terms of methodology. For example, that is introduction, that is a phonetic exercise, or that is stage of scaffolding or eliciting the feedback, or just acquiring new lexics, and so on and so forth. So now I want you to solve some dilemmas. So if we have a look at the video on YouTube and have 44 seconds, the first question arises. What should the teacher do if not all the students are engaged? How is it possible to increase student engagement? I would appreciate if you chat your answers. So, for instance, it could be just interaction, individual appeal to a person. It could be some gamification, right? It is not the common mistake, but majority of teachers ignore the students, right? So they focus on the most active. And if small kids are not given attention, they could show low academic performance results. They could be demotivated, right? So are there any comments? What should an experienced teacher or a newcomer do in the classroom if it lacks students' engagement? So is it possible to just talk tete-a-tete with the person, or you'd better avoid just discussing some issues in front of the whole group? So I would be grateful if you could read aloud. I see that there is the comment in the chat, but I cannot read it right now. Okay, just a sec. All right. So the question number 2. If a kid has made a mistake in pronunciation, should you put a wet blanket on it? Or should you just encourage him to transmit the message, ignoring some imperfection of pronunciation? If we have classes simultaneously with foreigners, they do not put down all the mistakes as the Russian teachers do. They focus on the message transmitted, right? And there is the offer to assist a child, to provide him a helping hand, to make it in chorus or to whisper to his ear, right? So the ideas could be wild at first sight, but they are worthy. Okay, if you type, just let me know. The problem number 3 is that some of your students has lost his pen or pencil. Should you punish him for it? Should you just put a C or I don't know, just low grade in his grade book? Should you ask his parents to come? No, you would just increase group work, right? You would encourage him to share or to get a pencil shared, because as Ekaterina Alexeyevna has mentioned, sharing is caring. And that's true not only for the teachers, for the kids as well, especially in the digital era when they are sitting glued to TV screens all their days long. Those human interactions are valuable, right? So, dilemma number 4. If there is the core of the group, the teacher works with, what should other kids do? Someone is just enjoying his time, another one is crying. So that could be a chaotic start of your teaching practice. You should be psychologically ready, or perhaps they would want to go just half of the class to go out for just certain reasons. So those situations that could be discussed before letting a teacher into the classroom would help him to be psychologically ready, to be methodologically ready, and to focus on the class itself. So it would be a way to get rid of those myths and fears and threats that could possibly arise during your first class. So as you can see, the teacher training program center is working rather successfully. So we have accomplished lots of training programs and received positive feedback. So there are several scientific laboratories working under the project, and we have high professionals, those members of NAID, and we have arranged some seminars where Piotr Stepichev told us about his perfect tools and interesting ideas. Tatiana Grigorina Terminasova, and lots of very, very interesting and reputable speakers. There were special seminars focused on your soft skills and burning out syndrome and the ways to avoid it, because it's actually a problem, and not only because of the distant learning, not only because of lots of Zoom sessions. That is the just usual way of developing. So when you start your teaching career, it's like the honeymoon. You love everything, and within the time, the routine makes you bored. And if you don't relax, if you don't change the activity, if you don't strike the right balance between work and your free time, between your family and your career, so you could be burnt out. So lots of things that would be interesting for our potential teachers, for our listeners, were taken on board. So, and we are happy to announce the results. As you can see, those digital tools are taken happily by the teachers, and the marks are pretty high. It's like the 4.5. So, and as for the recommendations, some would recommend to introduce more tests, so more videos and podcasts, so and audio files. So as you can see, you should focus on various kinds of learners. Some would prefer to write, some would prefer to listen, others are visuals, right? So you should bear it in mind, undoubtedly. So here is the link to the just surveys we have carried out, the preferences of the teachers and the gaps. And surprisingly, the threats or perhaps the weaknesses were not linked with digitalization. The gaps were mostly on how to single out a talented student, for example, or on the methods of teaching just those kids who have some health problems or underprivileged ones. So special pedagogy and lots of detailed or narrow areas were to be addressed. Okay, of course, there are two sides of any medal, And there are some challenges that we're going to overcome. So, as I have mentioned, no special training for the teachers who are working with those kids. Low teachers' motivation. Sometimes when we arrange training programs, teachers are too tired after the load they have on their shoulders and after long hours. It is not possible to just perceive new information and get ignited, right? And as the previous process, just research and development requires from 5 to 10 years, and we don't have too much time. So, but nevertheless, there are some fruits, some results that we are happy to bear. And first and foremost, we introduce peer learning when the students or the kids help each other, when they listen to each other and they correct, because if your peer would correct your mistake, it wouldn't be so insulting and just compared to the being facing the music in front of the whole class, right? So sharing, as I have mentioned, methods of active learning, and here is just the perfect opportunity for those who just are quick at doing tasks and procrastination. It depends. And if you have your individual speed, and if you can have several times of access to the just program or virtual reality glasses, so that just eliminates lots of potential psychological problems. And the teachers and the kids would have instant feedback. So here is the list of the literature that could be used. And that concludes the formal part of my presentation. Thank you very much for listening. And don't hesitate to ask questions if you have any. Thank you, guys. Now I can see your comments. Anna, right. You should have some pre-watching and watching and after watching activities like warming up. Thank you for mentioning that. Pretty Jacob believes that we should assign a role of individual or peer work. Thank you. A brilliant idea. Correct. And it's easy to ask them to make small presentations. But if kids are just beginners, if they haven't acquired just knowledge enough, perhaps not the presentation, right? But not the performance. Or are you talking about theater performance? Perhaps I misinterpret the idea. That would be great. Kids love games, right? They would be happy to dramatize. Oh, thank you, Evgenia. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here. And thank you, Alex, for inviting. Dear colleagues, I do hope that you would be successful in your teaching career and you would use the link and solve all dilemmas that could possibly arise on your way to success. Thank you very much.